Now, if you've been paying attention, you'll notice that I skipped one. That's because I had a bit of a disaster happen. And hey Floss Tube, welcome back. This is my 120th Floss Tube video, and I'm excited to share with you what I've been working on. But first of all, I want to welcome you. If you are new to this channel, welcome. I hope that you enjoy the things that I have to share with you. And if you are returning, thank you for coming back and watching my videos. I really appreciate it. It's been just over a month since my last video, I believe. I haven't looked at the exact date. I've had a lot to share with you. Basically, I'm going to be showing you all of my whips again. So that's exciting. I have some pretty good progress that I want to share with you. We've had a great month. At the beginning of August, we went up to visit my wife's family in Utah. Had a wonderful time. I didn't do any stitching that week, so that kind of pushed everything back a little bit. But we had a really great time. Things since then have been going well. Things at work have been going well. The project that I was working on has come to an end, so it's a time to celebrate. There were a lot of things that cropped up as we were working on that project that I had to deal with, and it's a relief to finally have everything sent. Now we have to wait about 4 weeks to make sure that everything, and we cross our fingers and hope that everything is okay. We have to wait about 4 months before we get the results, but so that's going well. Work's going well. And it's a time of renewal, a time of moving on to a new project, and that's always fun. The weather is going great. It's actually started to cool down. We're in the 90s now, and that feels really quite nice. I'll never complain. So it's the closest thing to fall that you get as you start dropping down to the 90s. I miss fall in Utah. It's about this time of year that the leaves start to change, and I miss seeing the leaves change. But it is definitely nice to be out of the hundreds, out of the 110s. We won't see 110 again this year, I don't think. So that's good. Yeah, so before we really get going, I just want to share with you a couple of things that I've been working on besides my cross stitch. Of course, the app is actually taken a lot of my attention. I've made this latest update has mostly involved some behind-the-scene code changes, but there are a couple of new features that have been added that I'm kind of excited about, and that release I just barely made the release a couple of days ago. So if you haven't received the new version, you can actually probably go check, and you can update manually if you want to. The big change, and probably the change that caused the biggest amount of work, basically after I got everything put into place, there were several iterations before I actually got something that I really liked. I've made it possible. I've created a widget that you can put on your home screen. So now you can see basically a picture of the last project that you've stitched, along with a little bit of statistics about how much progress you've made. That is now available to you, so you can actually have that on the screen without opening up the app. So if you want to be able to see what you're working on during the day without opening up the app, you can put a widget on your home screen. There have been some other feature updates, mostly doing things that make it so that basically custom requests that people have put in that I think have been really cool. So you can now sort by the number of stitches that are remaining, or by the number of days that are remaining. I put in some checks to make it so that if you're working on a project and you enter in, you get to the point where you're 100% complete, I made it so that you can't enter any more stitches, because it doesn't make sense to go over 100%. And one of my beta testers didn't like that. She said, sometimes I frog stitches, and then that makes it so that I'm going to do more stitches than are available. And we talked about that a little bit, and I created a new option to disable completion calculations. She doesn't really care what percentage is complete or when the predicted finish date is, and so she just wants to see how many stitches she's made during that time. So if you go into settings and turn on disable completion calculations, all the percentage calculations and all the days remaining will now disappear. You won't see that anymore, and so the emphasis will be on how many stitches you have put into a project, rather than how far along you are. There's also the ability now, you can enter the number of stitches that you have frogged if you so desire, by turning on enable frog stitches. Enable removed stitches. I don't like putting slang into the app. That feels just a little bit too informal to me. So anyway, if you turned on enable remove stitches, you can enter the number of stitches that you have frogged during a stitching session, and then the tool will, basically the app will calculate the number of stitches you've made, and that's the number of stitches you've made minus the number of stitches you took out. Let's see. The big thing is the widget, and just some other things. I am working on a new release, and this is going to be a pretty significant release. I've been doing version 1 point something. I think the changes that I'm planning are significant enough that I'm going to go to version 2.0. I plan on adding some new features that I'm kind of excited about. One that was requested a long time ago that I feel I'm ready to do, and also another feature that I kind of have in my mind. I haven't decided how I'm going to do it exactly yet, but I'm really excited about that. And this update is also going to change the user interface quite a bit. I think it's going to make it look a lot nicer and a lot easier to navigate. So the changes are big enough that there will probably be quite a while before I do a new release. It's probably going to be a few months. But I think that the app is stable enough now and in a good place that people can use it while I'm doing that. That reminds me, I also had somebody post a comment on one of my on the video when I introduced the app, saying it would be really cool to have a picture for every log, and I agree that it'd be kind of cool to be able to keep a record of how things change through time, and I've considered doing that in the past. My only concern is when you assign a picture to project, it's not linking to the photo that you assign. It's actually importing that photo into the app. And there's several reasons why I do that. One of the biggest is that way you could assign a photo in, and if you deleted the photo out of your photo library, you'd still have the photo in the app. The problem is that takes up space. And I don't I'm afraid that if you assigned a photo to every log, that eventually, if you put that would eventually make the app become a bit of a space hog, and I don't want people to go into their settings to see why they're running out of space and see cross-stitch journal up at the top of the list. I'm really paranoid about that. It not only will take up space on your phone, but it will also take up space on your iCloud account, because all of your data is synced with iCloud, and so it would take up space in those two places. So I'm considering whether or not to give you the ability to add a photo to a log, just with some kind of an indication that this would increase the amount of storage space that would be required for the app. And maybe I'd make it so that it'd be easy to delete a whole bunch of photos if you needed to free up space. So I'm kind of working through that as well. That reminds me of a couple of other features. You can now assign 2 photos to a project. This is kind of meant to be a photo that's your progress photo, and a photo that would be like a picture of a cover photo, which would be, you could use that as a photo of what your project will look like once it's finished. That was one request that I had. I've also had some people say that they have had sync between their devices break for some reason. I've done some edits to try to make that a little bit more robust, and I've also put in a status indicator in the settings app to indicate whether or not sync is working. If sync breaks to the point where anything that you enter on, like your phone, for example, is not getting synced up to the cloud, you're going to get a badge that kind of indicates that way. That I hope will prevent people from entering a bunch of projects and not realizing that the data is not being synced up to the cloud. I don't know exactly what to do if that. The only thing I can say is if you get that and that badge and it's staying and not going away, the only thing that I know how to do right now to fix that is to delete the app from your phone and reinstall it. All of the data that is on iCloud will be synced back down to your app, so you won't lose any data, but that will fix the sync so that anything that you enter on that device will also be synced back up. I haven't ever seen that happen. Well, I have when I've had problems during my development. I've seen that happen where export is broken, but just in my normal use of the app, I've never had that happen. So anyway, just to keep that in mind. Hopefully that will help prevent people from having to enter data twice. So that's the app update. I've also started to do something else. I saw a video on YouTube of somebody who keeps track of their reading, and I've started to read a little bit more, and so I like that idea. So I've got a reading log. This is a Leuchtturm 1917. I prefer the grid format, the dot grids, over squared or blank or lined or ruled formats. So this is and every day I'm logging the books that I've read and the number of pages. Sometimes I record some of my impressions about what I've read or quotes that I have done, and at the end of the day I calculate the number of pages that I've read during that day. And it's been kind of fun. It's been kind of kept me going with my reading. And at the end of the month, I'll tally up the number of pages that I've read in the month. I started this in the beginning of the month, the 1st of September. So, and I'll keep track of that. yeah, doing this kind of makes me think, that's very similar to what I'm doing with my cross-stitch journal app. So anyway, so I'm keeping a reading log, and I'm reading a couple of books. First of all, keeping track of stuff. I finished reading a book that I really like, and I thought I'd recommend it to you if you are a reader. This is called A Gentleman in Moscow, and I've really enjoyed this book. It's about a man, of course it's fiction, but he is a member of the aristocracy at the time of the Russian Revolution, and instead of being executed, a few years before the revolution, he had written a poem that had kind of revolutionary sentiments in it, and the communists really loved the poem, and so they couldn't bring themselves to actually execute him because he was a member of the aristocracy. So instead, they put him under house arrest in the Metropole Hotel in Moscow, and so this is his story about him being confined to the hotel. The language is very beautiful. The prose is wonderful. The character development of the Count is really good, and it's a really fun read to see him interact with the people in the hotel and the things that happen to him. It seems a little bit relevant to some of the things that are happening today. It's a really good read. Right now, I am also reading. This is called The Game of Kings by Dorothy Dunnett. I have read this before. This is the first book in a series, and I've read the second book and kind of stopped. So I decided I wanted to read the entire series. So I started over with the first book because I'd forgotten a lot. But I've really enjoyed reading this again. I've gotten more out of it this time. Her writing is very, very elusive. A lot of allusions to mythology and religion and stuff, and because of that, I mean, a lot of obscure stuff that the average person's not going to know. And I catch some of it, but I don't catch all of it. So it makes it a little bit difficult to read. But I think I've understood more this time than I did the first time through, and I've really, really enjoyed it. The Game of Kings. It's about the main character is Sir Francis Crawford of Lymond. 5 years before this book starts, he was accused of treason and banished from Scotland, and actually put in prison on a boat rowing a ship. He has been released and has returned to Scotland, and is kind of caught in the middle between England and Scotland. This is at the time of Mary Queen of Scots and the Regency, because the king of England is Edward, who is just 8 years old. Mary Queen of Scots is 5 years old. England wants to marry the Queen to their king to solidify control over Scotland. Scotland doesn't want that. Scotland's Dowager Queen is Mary of Guise, who's from France. And so Scotland is basically caught between England and France. And this talks about that and about Lymond coming back to basically try to clear his name. And it's a really good read. A lot of adventure in it. I've been really caught up in it. I'm getting towards the end and starting to feel that build toward the climax. The other book that kind of started me wanting to log is that I've started reading is Anna Karenina. Of course, this is Tolstoy, and I've really enjoyed this too. I'm about halfway through part 3, and I've been doing something that I've never done before, and it's really, really helped and really kept my interest. And that's that I'm actually marking up the book. I'm underlining stuff and writing notes on the side. As I read each chapter, I put a summary at the top of the chapter indicating what happened in that chapter, and so that way I can easily go back and forth and find different things that happen. One of the things I will say about my impression about this book so far is that I am impressed with the way Tolstoy depicts Anna and Vronsky, and Vronsky, who is the man who she has an affair with, and Alexei Karenin, who is her husband. They are all. It is all amazing how he depicts how they all are kind of like in a state of self-denial, is the best way that I could say it. They all feel guilt because of what has happened, but they don't want to take guilt they don't want to admit that they're the cause of the problem, and so they all are looking toward to assign guilt somewhere else. And I think that is a pretty typical human thing to do, to try to tell yourself that you haven't done something wrong when in fact you have. And the depiction of that is very, I think it's very true to life. I think the way that he portrays their inner reactions to some of the things that are happening is really good. I'm also enjoying the story of Levin and Kitty, and looking forward to more of that. Like I said, I'm not even halfway through, but I'm really enjoying that. So that's what I'm doing as far as my reading goes. Okay. So now that I've talked about a whole bunch of stuff like that, let's talk about my stitching. Okay. So once again, since the last time I shot a video, I have touched all of my whips. So I have 4 whips to show you, and a bit of a problem that I have. I have a bit of a disaster to share with you. And the reason why I'm sharing the disaster is I just want to be, I've always tried to share my mistakes with you as well as my triumphs, I guess. So we'll just go through my whips from top to bottom again. And I need to get my board. Okay, so number 1 is Autumn Magic. This is a design by Heaven and Earth Designs. It's actually a painting by Randal Spangler, converted to an electronic design by Heaven and Earth Designs. This is a house in an autumn setting. And I've been working on this forever. This is my oldest whip. And of course I had a bit of a hiatus from stitching on it. So there's a long ways to go. And I've been working on it since maybe the beginning of the year is when I started this. And I'm really glad that I did. I'll show you what it looked like the last time you saw it. It's being stitched on 25 count Lugana, Antique White, stitching 1 strand of floss over 1. As you can see, I think the last time I showed it to you, I mentioned that I had moved on. I'd finished a page and I moved on to another page. And I'm really happy with my progress so far. I'll show you what it looks like now. So this is the page I'm working on. This page is going a lot faster than this one did, which is kind of a relief. So you can see I have now finished. I have gone across the entire width of the page. This is the top of the page, so I've hit the top of the page. The next time I come up here and do this diagonal, we'll start heading across the top of the page. But yeah, so it's really starting to see some more. You can see more of the balcony, and you can see the window. The window opens up onto the balcony. So yeah, this part of the house is coming into play a lot more, and I really am enjoying this. I finished. The next time I stitch this, of course, I'll be working down this diagonal, and things are going to be become a lot more clear. We're going to see there's this little window here, and then there's another larger window with a shadow of somebody standing behind it in here. So we'll see more of that as we come across. I think the top of the page goes, I think the window goes up above the top of the page, so we won't see the entire window, but we're going to see more of it. And yeah, so this is going to really, really start to show up. Yeah, I am really enjoying working on this again. I am glad that I picked it back up. I don't know if I'll ever finish this project. I have so far to go with it, but I am enjoying it, and I'm enjoying seeing things take shape. Yeah, it's so big that if I really wanted to finish this, I'd have to just work on this and nothing else, and I don't think I could do that. So anyway, that's Autumn Magic by Randal Spangler as converted to a chart by Heaven and Earth Designs. So that's project number 1. The next project that I have to share with you is Dragon Quaker. This is a design by Stickideen von der Wiehenburg. Of course, it's dragons surrounded by Quakers, and this has been really fun. I've really enjoyed working on this time. I ended up spending a week and a half on this one for reasons that we will talk about a little bit later. So I got a lot finished. I'll show you what it looked like the last time you saw it. It's stitched on 32 count Dirty Belfast Linen with the called for DMC, stitched 2 strands over 2 fabric threads. And I am starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I think I've got a couple of weeks left. My app says 8 days, but I'm not sure that I believe that because things are going to be pretty dense. It takes a while to do all of the motifs along the border. So anyway, this is what it looks like now. And as you can see, I've stitched basically a row of flowers basically across the bottom. So this main dragon doesn't look like he's like sticking out anymore. He's completely surrounded. I stitched the last dragon, so all 7 dragons are completed. There's this dragon in the middle, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 smaller dragons. They're all finished. All of these plants that go around the outside are now finished. And most of the smaller motifs are finished. All that is left to stitch is there's one of these half medallions over here. And then I have to go corner to corner with medallions, just like there's half medallions up here. There's also a couple of letters that still need to be stitched, and there's a couple of little teeny tiny motifs that I didn't stitch because they were too close to the bottom of my scroll frame. I'll come back and catch them when I'm working across the bottom with the last row of motifs. But yeah, I don't think I can stitch those halves of motifs in a week. I think it's going to be at least 2 weeks before it's completely finished. But I'm seeing the end, and that's really exciting. That'll be I definitely will have this finished by the end of the year, I'm pretty sure. It might be December when it's finished. Either that or else I don't know. We'll see the next time I pull this out and work on it, we'll see how far I am away from finishing, and I may just stitch on it till it's finished. It depends on how much I feel I have left to stitch. But yeah, I'll give you a closer look at these bottom flowers. I think of the 4 that I stitched down here, I think this one's my favorite. I really like that one. Oh, this one's pretty cool too. So yeah, this is Dragon Quaker by Stickideen von der Wiehenburg. And it'll be good to get another finish in. Okay. My next whip is Sunshine and Shadows. I've actually stitched this twice since you last saw it. I started this before I went to Utah. What I'd say is when I came home from Utah, I started working on this, and that week was just a crazy week, and I only stitched on it for a couple of days that week, so I actually worked on this for 2 weeks before, and then I've stitched on it this last week as well. This is Graphs by Barbara and Cheryl. It's basically a side yard. You can see, yeah. Before I go on, I've always wondered what this is through here, what this light color is. I've always thought that, at first I thought that was just dirt. I have decided, and part of the reason why is I found this artist and some of the other pictures that he has painted that are similar to this, and I have decided that this is actually light shining on the pavement, which is a little bit, I don't like that quite as much. I think the rest of the picture kind of makes it so that I can kind of overlook that. It's kind of clunky, I guess would be the word that I would use for that. But I love everything else around it, so I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep stitching this. So I'll show you what it looked like the last time you saw it. This is being stitched on 32 count Ivory Lugana, stitched with the called for DMC. It has DMC and anchor numbers, and I'm stitching with DMC. And yeah, stitching 2 strands over 2 fabric threads. And basically I've been able to stitch more or less 2 diagonals. The diagonals are long enough, they're taking me about a week to stitch. But this is what it looks like now. And I am so happy with this. Every time I say this, but it gets more and more true. Things are really, really starting to take shape. This part of the pavers, I'm going to call these pavers now, is pretty much finished. You can see the light that is shining underneath the gate. The bottom of the gate is finished, and if you look really closely, you can see this bottom corner of the planter. There's a planter over on this side that's just like this planter. So I've hit that planter as well. You're seeing more of the top of the picket fence and the house that goes back here. At first, I thought that the house was green, but I've decided that the house is white and that the green is just due to the shadow. This is the white in shadow. But yeah, it's just so dimensional, and it's gonna look even better the more that I stitch. Yeah, so the next diagonal I start will be, this is the top of the design. And so the next diagonal that I start, I will hit the top corner. So it won't look like that. I'll have to stitch another diagonal, and then the next diagonal you'll start to see the top edge of the design. That feels like a bit of a milestone. And then I think I've got maybe 10 diagonals that I have to stitch at that length before everything starts to, before I hit this corner down here and the diagonals start to shrink again. So I really feel like I'm making good progress with this, and I'm really enjoying stitching it. So I'll give you a little bit closer look. So yeah, this is Sunshine and Shadows by Graphs by Barbara and Cheryl. Okay, whip number 4 is, of course, my Teresa Wentzler, which I always have to be stitching a Teresa Wentzler, and this is my Teresa Wentzler English Garden Sampler. Sorry, English Cottage Sampler. I've already stitched English Garden Sampler. And I'm excited. I really enjoy working on this. I've worked on it a week since you last saw it. And it is really coming along. So I'll show you what it looked like the last time you saw it. I'm stitching this on 32 count Flax Belfast Linen with the called for DMC, stitching 2 strands over 2 fabric threads, of course. And this is what it looks like now. So I last time I've stitched this border up here, so I had to bring all of the lines up, and then the lattice, and then the leaves. So I'm working on filling in the leaves, and when I get the leaves filled in up to here, then we'll start working across here. There's a line of letters that need to be stitched, and then the vignette with the cottage is in here. And I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do. I am tempted to stitch everything. Well, probably stitch the frame around the cottage, but I may save the cottage for last. I may bring everything else up and finish everything around, and then come back and start stitching the cottage. I haven't decided yet. I think I'm going to park when I stitch the cottage. And so that kind of means working a little bit differently than I am working right now. So I just have to decide when I'm going to do that. But yeah, loving this. I had somebody on Instagram say that she worried about the fact that I'm leaving all the back stitching to the end. And there is a lot of back stitching, of course. All of this around here, all these leaves need to be back stitched. There is a lot of back stitch, and it's going to take me at least a month to back stitch. It might take me more to back stitch. But I'm okay with that. It's not the first time I've spent a month back stitching. Probably won't be the last. But I just don't know where to start and where to stop. Start back stitching and stop. That's part of the reason why I save it till the end. What I'll do is, there is basically a list of back stitching instructions in her patterns. It says, outline all the leaves in this color, stitch the stems in this color. And I generally work from the top down through that list. And I don't I just can't think of doing that as I am stitching. So that is one of the big reasons why I do that. It won't be the first, but so yes, the back stitching is going to be a bit of a slog, but I enjoy back stitching like that because I enjoy seeing things come to life as I back stitch. So it's not that big a deal to me as it is to other people. So I'll just give you a little bit of a closer look at this border. You can see the leaves are starting to come up here. And yeah. So this is English Cottage Sampler by Teresa Wentzler. Okay, that's all my whips. Now if you've been paying attention, you'll notice that I skipped one. That's because I had a bit of a disaster happen. And I'm not sure what to do about it. And the one that I skipped is my Chatelaine Medieval Town Mandala. I'll show you how far I got before I realized this. So this is stitched with the called for silks on 32 count. White Belfast Linen. This is what it looks like. You can see I was working across here, across the bottom, and I finished all of these houses, or all of these buildings that were on this side. There's a big main building here, and I came up, there's kind of this fence that goes between the blue on either side, and I was stitching this, and I thought, I ought to look and make sure that everything lines up. And this center post of the fence, I'll give you a little bit closer look. This center post of the fence, when I got here, I thought, oh, that's weird. This center post isn't lining up with the center of this motif. I thought, I think that's supposed to line up. So I looked at the pattern, I'm like, yes, this center post is supposed to line up with this, and it's a stitch off. So then why am I a stitch off? Why do these not line up? So I started looking over the chart, trying to figure out where I made the mistake. And what I decided to happen is I stitched this center motif, and then I came down here and I stitched this, and then when I went from here to here, I miscounted. And so this entire outer perimeter is shifted over by one. So this is not going to look good. If I don't do anything about it, then everything is going to look off, because everything is going to be shifted one stitch over. There's enough room, but what it'll look like is when I come over here and stitch this will look further away, and this side will look closer, which I know everybody says the average person is not going to notice that. I'm stitching for me, I'm not stitching for the average person, and I will always notice that. So then I thought, well, what can I do to fix this? I'm not going to take all this out. Or I guess it might be easier to take out the center and restitch the center. But I don't want to do that either, because taking out all this metallic just really the thought of taking out the metallic is bad. And even worse, these two butterflies are stitched over one. Taking out those over one butterflies is just going to be a nightmare. And it's too much to take all of this out and stitch it right. So then I thought, well, if I'm not going to take anything out, that means I need to fudge this. How am I going to fudge this? And fudging this, I would actually have to add, in order to move this over here, I would have to add 2 stitches on either side of the mistake so that it would be symmetric. So I'd have 2 stitches on either side. That would make this way 2 stitches wider than this. And plus everything is connected all the way across. So I'd have to figure out how to add 2 stitches probably in the building somehow. And I kind of think I know how to do, I kind of have an idea of what to do as far as that goes. But then I just worry that it's just not going to look, it's not going to be square. And it's obviously not going to be square because it's going to be, it's not just 1 stitch, it's 2 stitches. Well, anyway, the upshot of that is because of that, I haven't decided what I'm going to do. So this has gone into my paused list. It's in timeout. It's caused me too much stress to deal with right now. So I'm thinking about what I'm going to do. And I mean, even completely restarting is on the table as far as I'm concerned. I would almost be more willing to start again from scratch rather than trying to fudge it and then spending a whole bunch of time on it and not liking the end result. And I know you're going to say, nobody's going to notice it. I will notice it, and it will drive me crazy. So anyway, so that is where that stands. So I'm down to 4 whips right now. And when I moved this over to the paused, I was actually surprised. I moved this over to my pause list, and it felt like it was a bit of a relief, because this is that was one of the great big huge projects that I was working on. It was going to take me a long time to stitch, and it just kind of felt like a bit of a relief to just say, okay, that one's gone for now. I don't need to worry about whether or not I'm going to finish it. So yeah, it's probably not going to come out for a very long time, and like I said, it's very possible that I will, if I do pick it up again, I may just there's a good possibility that I'll start back over from scratch, just because, like I said, it feels easier to me to start over than to try to fudge it or take stuff out. So that means I have four projects in my rotation. When I reduced my rotation, I said I wanted to have 5. I'm kind of thinking that rather than add another project in, I think for right now I'm going to stay with 4. I'm not really excited about adding another project in. I want to finish Dragon Quaker. That'll bring me down to 3, and then at that time I'll decide what I'm going to do. So right now I'm going to stick with 4 projects. I'll show you my chart showing you how far along the percentage-wise for all of them, for all 4 of them. And of course, Dragon Quaker is the closest to being finished. It has the fewest number of remaining days, which is this chart. And I'm kind of concentrating more on getting that done. So yeah, I want to be able to come back around to it in my rotation sooner rather than later. So that's kind of why I'm not going to add another whip right now. And then when that goes, then we'll decide what I'm going to add in from my vast pile of whips. Okay. So I mentioned Sunshine and Shadows is what I worked on this week. So next week I will be stitching English Cottage Sampler. I'm excited to get back to that. I'll be excited to finish that border on the side, and then we'll start working on alphabets and maybe start working on the oval that is in the center of the design. So yeah, that's kind of what my plans are. And then we'll start back up at the top again with Autumn Magic. I'm excited to get back to that and see how much more of that page I can stitch. So those are my plans for the next couple of weeks. Of course, October is coming up. Not this weekend, next weekend is General Conference. Hey, that's a thought. Next weekend is General Conference. I'm going to have a lot of stitching time during General Conference. So that means a lot of time on English Cottage Sampler and Autumn Magic. Yeah, that'll be good. It'll be good to get some good progress on those. October, of course, is the best month of the year. It's my birthday month. In the past, I have started something for my birthday month. I don't know. Right now, I'm not really inclined to start anything. So I don't know that I will. Right now, I think I'm going to stay with the 4 pieces that I've been working on that I've showed you. So those are kind of my plans. Anyway, if you want to follow my daily progress, of course you can always follow me on Instagram where I post my daily photo. I am at blitstitch on Instagram. Thank you so much for spending time with me. If you haven't, feel free to subscribe to this channel so that you can be notified when I post new videos, and of course ring the bell and then you will get a notification. I enjoy hearing from you, and if you have any comments about what I'm reading or any suggestions about what I should be doing as far as my stitching goes, feel free to leave them in the box below, in the comments below. I guess let me know what you think about medieval town mandala. What would you do? Would you start over? Would you just take the risk and fudge it and hope that it looks good at the end, or what do you think I should do? I'd be glad to hear your opinion about that. And that's about it. I hope that you have a great week, and we will talk to you later. Goodbye.